So good afternoon, buenas tardes. Welcome everybody to this Solutions Talk session about IoT, city infrastructures and platforms. It's an honor for me to chair it and welcome these 6 experts around the world that will zoom in their solutions, approaches, and initiatives regarding IoT and implementations. So I will welcome to the first speaker that will start the session, and we'll ask you to prepare your questions and use the Ask and Vote application to write the questions you want to bring to the speakers. So thank you very much, and please a big applause for our speakers and that have come here to. Okay, so. Please. So our first speaker is Mr. Levent Gürgen. He's the Research and Development Project Manager in CEA, and he's recently founded the Urban Technology Alliance that is going to be the topic that he's going to talk about today. So thank you.
Thanks. I have the... Great. Hello, everyone. Yes, I will be talking about the Urban Technology Alliance, which is a non-profit global consortium of cities and solution providers that are coming together to experiment smart city solutions. So before entering into the Urban Technology Alliance presentation, I would like to make you an introduction with this curve. I guess many of you knows about this curve, right? The hype cycle proposed by the American firm Gartner, which is actually claims that each trend, technological trend, let's say, follow these 5 phases. Like some technology triggers the largely adoption of the trend, and then you reach a certain peak, actually, where you have an inflated expectations, and then you come to a phase where you have this true of disillusionment, disappointment based on the undelivered results, and then the second generation products come and you come to this slope of enlightenment. You learn from the experiences and you finally reach to have a mature market. If I ask you where you would put indeed the smart city trend on this graph, probably many of you will say we are just in the beginning, we are in the peak, we are in the disappointment phase, or we are kind of having to the maturity. So my personal opinion is indeed we are in this slope of enlightenment where there had been, let's say, here I will go very quickly, failed experimentations, techno-push solutions that has been done in some recent years, which has indeed, you would confirm probably that the solutions did not really answer the requirements from the cities and the citizens. And now, with lessons learned and the experimentations that we have done, we have reached in these experimentations, we have built new strategies, and we can now go in the coming years this mature market. And exactly Urban Technology Alliance is about this. So before large-scale deployment, making experimentations in order to validate not only technical from technical perspective, but also from the economic perspective, societal perspective, that the solutions can be validated by the cities and citizens themselves. UTA provides indeed a matchmaking platform. No one can do everything alone, so we need partners, partnerships. So this alliance provides these partnerships among different types of smart city industry. And what is interesting and why the cities are joining is that they want to see what's going on around the world. So the objective is also to share best practices, lessons learned among the cities doing smart city deployment. So currently, we are just in the initial phase. We have about 15 partners from different countries, 15 cities, sorry, having cities in Europe, from Asia, from Korea, from Japan, from Taiwan, as well as institutions, neutral institutions where you can have independent neutral guidance, but also industrial partners that can allow you making industrial deployments. Some examples. Taipei City would be ready for you to test some transportation or smart payment related solutions. Similarly, in Busan, several application domains are already there to looking for welcoming experimentations. Similarly, in Vancouver, if you have some green tech idea, they would be happy to help you to test your solutions. Santander, European, one of the, let's say, smartest cities in Europe, where you have thousands of devices already deployed so that you can test your concept and approach. Similarly, you have several other testbed possibilities in Japan. And if you have some niche ideas as well, this is an example we had also in France, in the Alps, some smart ski related experiments. So this is all about UTA. I hope I did not pass 5 minutes. Okay. And I also invite you, if you have time, if you want to get some more information, we are in the booth D403 and E502 if you want to get some French wine and cheese, and we can discuss if you would like to collaborate with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So please think about the questions you want to raise him later on. Our next speaker is Martín Brynskov, and he's the chair of the Open and Agile Smart Cities Initiative. So please.
Thank you very much. Whoop. How many of you represent cities? So maybe a third. So my aim is to represent your view here, so what cities need in terms of actual deployment of actual systems exploiting IoT. I just put it up here. We can come back to that later, but just to say that I represent a network of cities called Open Agile Smart Cities. It's a global network, but of national networks around the world. Here's a short map of who are there. The latest to join are our colleagues from Japan, so Tokyo and Fukuoka. Welcome you very much. We work with a lot of partners. I want to highlight the World Economic Forum and the new G20 Global Cities Alliance, as well as the UN, European Commission, many more, TM Forum, FIWARE, and others, and including the UTA Alliance, which you just heard about. So why do we need IoT? Well, of course we don't, but we have some issues. The world is in a crisis. I don't think I have to mention many examples, but one is, of course, that human well-being tends to be very tough on the planet. Our resource use is not sustainable. Just leave it there. It's old knowledge. This is from a UN report 2011. There's a little bit of issues around sovereignty and autonomy, so we cannot just deploy indiscriminately technology. This is a strategic policy note from Europe, but we could have taken Chinese or American examples as well. So we have an issue. We want protection of our lives in a broad sense, and we want innovation, but we lack a lot of trust. Standards are going to save us? Well, I don't think you want to bank on that. This is a very nice evolving mind map of standards made by Lindsay Frost and others, just to say that we have too many. So what we have done with the Open Agile Smart Cities partners is that we tried to find out if this is just, a random standard architecture, what is the minimal interoperability we can require from all our systems of systems. So this idea of minimal interoperability is key. If you ask me, and if you ask many who try to actually, in practice, put a lot of systems together to deliver services. The benefit for the buyers in this is that you get choice because you are not locked into one vendor. You get lots of companies who can deliver your services, but you can still port your data. You can still compare how they fare. The benefit for businesses, of course, you get a large addressable market and lower the cost of acquisition, and the benefit of all is reduced risk, increased investments, and the innovation. So these MIMs, as they're called, we now have 3 adopted by the member cities in OASC. I don't want to go into details, but just to say these are very concrete technical mechanisms delivered by a variety of providers, and they're adopted and governed, in fact, by the cities. What we have done then is that we have seen how they work in practice in Synchronicity, which is a large-scale pilot with 50 services around a lot of cities. this is the beginning in London in February, and this is the end in Milan. So basically, in 6 months, a ton of services, 50, deployed on a common technical ground, actually led by small and medium-sized companies. Just to give some examples, if you want to understand the bike infrastructure in your city, do you deploy and contract a new service? If you want to understand your existing building mass consumption, do you deploy and contract a new service? Where does the data go? We have a representative here from Link. Thank you, guys. If you set up air quality monitoring schools, do you contract and deploy and integrate a new service? If you want to have your green roofs not dying, do you then have a new service and do you manage that data? No, of course you don't. Because you have an overhead of a ton of systems connected to systems. So the MIMs are reducing that complexity. Now the latest to create some momentum for this idea that we can do a lot of things together is this upscaling declaration, ideally signed by all mayors in Europe by January. That's 80,000. That's probably not going to happen, but at least it's a step on the way. Just to say it's upscaling on a very large scale these ideas that have actually originated from the city's side together with their providers to create an open market for a ton of services. So this is my last slide. Of course, there's Barcelona now, where everybody can come and get inspired, but there's also some more focused events coming up around the learnings that many cities, many providers have already made, and they're making their ways both to businesses and to the standards world. So that's it from my side, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. So please welcome Juanjo Hierro. He's the CTO of Fireware Foundation. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I guess we need the presentation, right? Okay. So Martin already elaborated about the relevance of standards. But first message I wanted to convey is standards are no longer going to be designed by committee. We are talking about a different new approach for implementing and defining these standards, which should be following a driven by implementation approach, driven by open communities that will work into facing challenges, concrete challenges, developing solutions that work, extracting from there the components that can be reused or the data models that can be used to enable interoperability of services. So therefore, first message of this short presentation is we have to look for those open communities that will foster the development of the kind of standards, the minimum set of the standards, as Martin was explaining, that smart cities require. And during the last years, Fireware has precisely emerged as this open community that has driven the definition of the necessary standards that would accompany cities in their transformation journey. Transformation journey that goes through several steps, and in each of these steps, the definition of the standards was necessary, and the Fireware community has really played an active role in making those standards materialize. Starting from the very first step, which means that the city has to break the silos of information, creating a common layer where information coming from the different verticals that might be deployed in the city can be integrated together to create a holistic picture representing what's going on in the city in real time, the kind of digital twin representation of the city. Fireware was the first initiative that drove the creation of a standard API for context information management that could capture this data coming from different systems in real time to create this vision, on top of which big data algorithms, support decision systems can be developed. Those, that API, that layer technology, we promoted in organizations like Etsy. So nowadays, this API, which was incubated within the Fireware community, is now an Etsy standard, and very importantly also across Europe, the European Commission adopted our technology as a first basic building block they recommend to public administrations all over Europe to adopt in order to foster replicability and the concept of develop once for multiple cities. That was not the only step. Second step is about creating data models that can work across cities, because that is what ultimately will allow applications to be developed once and be replicable in multiple cities. And here the fiber community, together with the TM Forum, is working on creating data standard models that are public royalty free for the adoption by cities all around the world. Third step in this transformation journey is about the city also offering part of this data that they have captured so that third parties can develop solutions. And for this, we also need standards. The way how open data, traditional open data publication platforms could be integrated with API management frameworks to allow this kind of real-time data be exposed and be exposed in a controlled manner. So Fiverr has developed within the community ways to extend most popular data publication platforms like Seekhunt, but also collaborating with other data publication platform providers. And last but not least, in the final step of the transformation journey that has to do with transforming the city into an engine of growth and support to the data economy, is the concept of the city understanding it doesn't have all the data that is needed for creating the kind of innovative services that the cities that will transform the daily life of cities and citizens and business. And here is about how to unleash the potential of data coming also from the private sector and transforming open data approaches, open data programs led by the cities into programs towards data economy, supporting data marketplace, and conceptualize that. TM Forum, together with the open fiber community, is working towards creating this kind of frameworks. Recently, we'll also sign a liaison with IOTA Foundation, working towards this direction and bringing technology that works and can be used for that purpose. Last slide with the summary conclusions. Standards are required is the only way we will make the notion of a smart cities market sustainable over time. In the new digital era, those standards have been really need to be defined fast, following a driven by implementation approach, and it's about finding which are the right open communities where all this collaborative effort can be carried out, and Fiverr is a great opportunity in that vision. So join us, and if you want to learn more about Fiverr, visit us in our stand, which is D421, close to the stand of the Catalonia government, and we are welcoming you if you want to learn more. Thank you.
So our next three speakers come from three private companies, and they will tell us their approach. First is Kaylin Sims. She's the CTO of Hexagon Infrastructure and Safety. So thank you, Kaylin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So yes, I'm the first one speaking from the industry side, and absolutely standards are important in order for us to make our solutions work. And I think the first thing before I talk about our solution is to make sure we all understand the problem. I'm sure many of you in the cities do understand that. But city services are supplied by so many different agencies. Some are federal, some are regional, some are municipal, some are private companies, some are not-for-profit companies. All of them have their own systems, their own data, and when an event occurs, they have a very limited and different view of the same situation that's occurring, which really amplifies the impact when a major event occurs. And it's not just major events. Everyday occurrences can be improved by collaboration and data sharing between organizations. So you may feel like you can relate to this diagram because sharing between organizations does exist, but it's in an ad hoc manner today. And it's typically between a very limited set of users within an industry or even within just a group of organizations. Hexagon delivers public safety solutions as one of our industries that we serve, as well as utilities. And even within public safety, and even when there's standards, it's often very difficult for one police agency to talk to another police agency. We deliver interoperability solutions that enable them to have mutual aid, But those systems are typically very limited. This picture is much more organized looking, and this is where we all want to be. And this is what our solution, Hexagon Connect, is shooting to achieve: a structured method for data sharing across multiple organizations, and those organizations span multiple industries. And that's the real challenge, is coming up with standards that go across industries: transportation, public safety, water management, city government. So if you walk around this exhibit hall floor, I'm sure you've seen many booths that have situational awareness, visualization dashboards with IoT assets displayed. And that is what Hexagon Connect provides, but we take it one step further. How do we do that? Well, first of all, we have built a system that can be used every day. There's many systems out there for major events, a terrorist attack or a major natural disaster. But those remain dormant until they have to, flip a switch during a major event. But think of how much we can achieve if we're coordinating just on everyday city operations. Another differentiator between what we have and just the normal common operating picture is to be able to share data. So each agency can determine what data they want to share, who they want to share it with, what filters and business rules will drive that data sharing. And then, of course, the idea of connecting to a wider audience beyond just the vertical industries is very important. And Hexagon Connect enables us to be able to do that. So we're not replacing existing interoperability hubs. We're just connecting them to build a bigger ecosystem of connectivity. The other way we're differentiated is, it's one thing to share data and have a common picture, but what about taking action on that data? If there's an incident, multiple, the utilities, the police, the fire, the EMS, the water management, the transportation, they all need to share data and be coordinating tasks. So we provide scheduling, task management, collaboration tools to coordinate those interagency. And of course, it all goes across securely organizations, because the more organizations that are involved, the smarter the system. So I think the best way to really show this is through a quick video. Hopefully I won't exceed the 5 minutes here. And excuse me for the legal disclaimer that our legal requires us to put on every video. So.
Every day, cities and regions have incidents big and small that affect multiple organizations. As a civic or department leader, it is essential to collaborate and share information. Without digital collaboration and data sharing, coordinating incidents relies on who you know and discovering how they're responding. The problem is disconnected systems and people, where whiteboards, radios, cell phones, and watching the local news are used to make critical decisions. Hexagon Connect takes your smart city beyond whiteboards and radios and towards a common environment to securely share a real-time operating picture between city managers, healthcare, public safety, public works, transportation, and utilities. Consider a train derailment. Although the derailment might be minor, until the incident has been assessed, nearby residents need to be evacuated. With Connect, the train company can share what chemicals were on the train from their asset management system. Fire knows when police have secured the scene from their computer-aided dispatch system. Volunteer groups receive updates about the needs of the passengers and other citizens affected. The city manager has a high-level view of who is doing what, making it easy to communicate with citizens. Hexagon Connect, a cloud-based safe city portal, enables organizations to see, share, and collaborate to get incidents resolved faster.
Thank you for your time, and please visit us in the Hexagon booth.
So thank you. Thank you, Kaylin. Our next speaker is Mr. Chang Huang. He's the Senior Director in Cisco's IoT Business Unit, leading with Cisco's Smart City platform and IoT edge computing software. So thank you, Chang.
Right, thank you. It's great to be here in this city to share experience and learn from each other in our smart city journey. So first, in the next few minutes, I want to share our smart city approach. But before that, a little bit of history and context. Cisco, we're known for as a market leader for IT and security. Over the years, we have been working with thousands of cities to provide networking, collaboration, and security technologies for your city networks. This could be your city backbone network. This could be your data center. This could be the network for your departments, such as libraries, schools, hospitals, and so on and so forth, right? In the last few years, we start to see many customers starting to leverage IoT technology to digitize their digital city operations. A pretty wide range of use cases, from lighting to parking to mobility to waste management, safety, security, right? To really make the city more livable, accessible, more sustainable, and safer as well. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of challenges in terms of technologies and complexities. A lot of cities are overwhelmed by that. So for the last few years, we have been working with hundreds of cities to learn from each other. And over time, we established our smart city approach. So before I get into that, I want to share a bit of a snapshot in terms of what we see in the current smart city deployment and some of the challenges. So I agree with some of the speakers earlier, right? Due to lack of a standard and due to a lot of complexities, we see a lot of POCs and sub-scale deployment. Some of the challenges are showing on this slide. First, you need to connect many new IoT devices into your network. This could be cameras, this could be sensors, this could be smart lighting control nodes, and so on and so forth, right? So a lot of city leaders are overwhelmed with the challenge. First, you need to select from a wide range of technologies, from Ethernet to Wi-Fi, to LoRa, to RF mesh, to cellular, and then there's upcoming 5G, right? A lot of technologies in front of you, and due to lack of standard, we see a lot of these vertically siloed network and applications. It really prevents the cities from sharing data across different departments. We also see a lot of duplication on infrastructure investment. It's quite common to see multiple Wi-Fi or LoRa networks being set up for multiple use cases. So very high deployment cost, not easy to scale. Then it's about data, right? You need to bring together data from different sensors and devices and make sense of the data to drive better decision and better policy. But before that, the cities are challenged, to deal with the data from different format and different standard. I think Martin and team talk about there's a lack of a standard and data model, right? So city today often goes through a huge, costly system integration process to bring the data together before they can even drive the smarter decisions. So as a result, we see many siloed applications. The data is often trapped in different applications, in different departments. Again, not easy for you to make smarter decisions over time. So based on what we see, we defined a two-pronged strategy from Cisco to help customers to solve some of these challenges, right? So first, starting from the network layer, so we believe every smart city starts with its network, right? So from here, we start with a sort of an architecture approach. We delivered a reference architecture to the market in terms of how you can bring a common secure IP infrastructure to run multiple public services in a secure, scalable fashion. Also allow departments to share data across each other to drive better policy and drive better automation. So over here, as you can see, it's a multi-access, a multi-service IoT network, taking advantage of different access technologies. So you can start from one use case and expand over time into multiple use cases under the same security, under the same management and automation benefit. The same physical network can be virtualized and subdivided for multiple departments to run their services on top, right? So to make the deployment easier for our customers, we have also tested this reference architecture in the lab, and we published the reference design guide and implementation guide so that you guys can follow and deploy it with the confidence. So we believe in standard and interoperabilities, and we're working with our partners to really drive this to a scalable deployment. Then it's about data, right? We have established a smart city IoT platform over the years. Because of a lack of a standard, very fragmented landscape, we basically established the platform to allow cities to aggregate sensor data from different types and different vendors. And then we took the time to create a hardened, repeatable data model for different city operations across lighting, parking, waste management, mobility, and so on and so forth. And we provide secure API to the northbound applications so that cities and application partners can easily consume this data in a structured way to build smarter applications. Also, this is one of the first time we're putting all the key city operations in a single dashboard so that under a single pane of glass, you can look at your different city operations, you can drive better policy automations. Now you can look at your traffic, pollution, and your parking at the same time, for example. Really help you to drive to the next level of visibility and policy automation. So to summarize, here is our recommendation to you. So in your smart cities journey, you might start from one use cases, you might start from many use cases, but we do recommend you to look at the holistic approach and look at your end goal, right? We recommend you to look at a multi-service network architecture to build a strong foundation for you to run multiple services in a secure, flexible, and modular way. We recommend you to look at the platform approach to look at the different data, aggregate them together with a data model so that you can easily consume the data to drive better policy and better recommendations. So welcome to see our booth. We have a lot of demos and some of the real customer examples, how people are using some of these technologies to build scalable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next speaker is Mr. Inda Kenny. He comes from Amazon, and he's the Amazon Web Services Solution Architect. And he also is passionate on IoT. You define yourself?
That's correct, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. As Rosa just said, my name is Enda Kenny. I'm a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services with a specialty in the area of IoT. In this short time I have with you, I'll be laying out some simple steps that you can take today to lay the foundations for your smart cities of the future. So the Internet of Things is just really a representation of physical things in a digital way, and this enables new and exciting solutions to real business problems. Only today, on my way to the airport, the bus that collected me was equipped with sensors which had real-time information on board, so I knew exactly when that bus would come to my stop. So this is a simple example from today, but what about tomorrow? The adoption of IoT is growing at an exponential rate, and it's becoming increasingly difficult for organizations and cities to keep up. So it's really important that you take action now so that you don't get left behind. According to IHS, the number of connected devices in the last 5 years has grown by 15 billion, and they further project that in the next 5 years it's going to increase by 50 billion devices. Whether cities realize it or not, they will use machine learning in the future. And machine learning requires data, and a lot of data, to train the machine learning models. So it's imperative that you start capturing that data urgently, so that when it does become clear that you do need to use machine learning for your applications, that you have that data ready to go and that you can hit the ground running. This data is also really, really important in terms of attracting top developer talent and also startup talent to your city. Developers love to work with cities that have made this data available, and if your city has not made that data available, you risk losing that developer and that startup to rival cities where they will go to innovate and create revenue there instead of in your city. So what are the key enablers to capture this data and to create these IoT applications? First, we have the sensors themselves, which are available at an ever-decreasing price. Then we have the compute, which again, similarly, is cheaper than it's ever been before. But these two foundational pillars are only of value when you have the connectivity to connect these sensors to the back-end compute that run the IoT applications that you want to run. And this is, in essence, my key message for you today. Cities need to address this connectivity deficit and start investing in LPWAN as soon as you can. LPWAN is really just is low-power, wide area networks, and the investment is relatively small. About 40 gateways will cover a typical city at a cost of approximately €1,000 each. These gateways are analogous to the wireless router you have in your home. The big difference being that the gateway will cover an entire city district instead of just merely the footprint of a building. Luxembourg City, for example, deployed an IoT network, an LPWAN network with 20 such devices that cover their entire city. So let me share with you an example of a city that has really embraced IoT. The city of Chicago. Open Grid makes 600 data sets available to citizens for the first time, and this solution is hosted on AWS, Amazon Web Services. Citizens can visualize city data such as transit, crime, construction, traffic, emergency call data, just to name a few. And this is available to its 2.6 million people that live there. Chicago repackaged this solution on AWS as infrastructure as code and open sourced it. So you and your city can take it to quickly and cost effectively adapt Open Grid to share your data. So what does the future look like for your city? In closing, I would just once again urge you to start laying the roads and railways of your future cities by investing in LPWAN, capture your data, make it available to developers so that they can innovate and improve the lives of your city's residents. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you here today. Please come and chat to me afterwards or in the panel discussion. We're available in the AWS stand at D409 in the exhibit area. Please come and introduce yourselves. Tell me about your city and its challenges. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. So we thank you very much to all the speakers. We only have 4 or 5 minutes for the debate. So I would like you to answer one question about one of the main barriers for IoT, which is the security challenges and the citizens' trust in this kind of platforms. What would you propose from the cities, from the industry side, to deal with this?
From the industry side.
Industry?
I think from the industry side, the biggest challenge we have are the silos between the different vertical markets. Each industry, like I said, we work in public safety, we work in transportation, we work in utilities, but they don't tend to cross over, they don't tend to establish standards between them, which is why it's great to have standards consortiums working on that problem. But for us in the industry, it makes it very difficult to build solutions to cross over between industries.
I think security is a top concern when people look at the IoT. We see this across the industry, not just city, but also manufacturing and others. So over here, when you start to design your smart city IoT projects, I think you need to look at the security from the get-go, right? How do you onboard a sensor in a secure way? How do you, have your network security in place to be able to securely authenticate the devices coming to your network? How do you segment the devices from different departments? So these are some of the best practices that you need to consider as you look into connecting the sensors into your network. Then it's really about data, right? There's a lot of concerns about data privacy, data ownership. How do you secure the data and share across the different departments and with your partners as well? So over here, that's also a key area to consider. I think there's a lot of discussion in the panel in terms of data security and data ownership. That's also a key area.
Yeah, I think my co-panelists have covered off much of what I was going to say, but I think from an Amazon Web Services perspective, once the data is in AWS, we at AWS, we believe that that security is job zero. And what that really means is that security is, you take care of security before you do anything else. So I would echo what my co-panelist said, that you invest in security by design from the very beginning, and then use security best practices, security at every layer, principle of least privilege, and kind of best practices that are known, that are industry agnostic.
Do you want to say something about how to increase trust from the city's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, yes, my colleagues, indeed, actually, they covered quite a lot in terms of security, privacy, in terms of trust, indeed. It's a question of education as well. I think we have to be more closer to the citizens and to explain, to relieve some concerns that they may have in terms of privacy, trusting to smart city solutions. And again, related to my presentation, I think the experimentation approach should be there in order to do this experimentation with the citizens in the loop. From the beginning, I agree that the security, privacy, and trust by design would be the something that the solution providers should focus on.
What I would like to add to what has already been said is that we should not just be focused on IoT data, because the smart city platform is not going to be just an IoT platform. So solution will not come by means of just knowing how to integrate IoT data. And therefore, the aspect about security should be also holistic. It's about how to get access control to all kind of data and do it in a holistic manner. So one recommendation is not to go for standard security solutions that only cover the IoT data aspect.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think actually one thing to consider is
Very short,
what
Martin.
not to connect. We talk about interoperability and connectivity, but the minimal interoperability and connectivity that creates better lives, I think, is what we need to go for. So the last two minimal interoperability mechanisms that have been proposed by the City of Helsinki, the City of Amsterdam, is personal data management and fair AI. So you can actually see what people are doing with your data and what they're not doing. So I think trust only comes from when you can see things, well, are not connected or are not done to your data. I think that's a quite important point, not to connect everything with everyone.
Okay, so I think that we need to finish because we have run out of time. It's a pity because I think most of you have a lot of questions. I will ask you to approach the speakers, visit their booths, and talk to them and just clarify what you're wondering. So thank you very much, and please join me with a big applause for all of them.